All right. So, um, yeah, I've not been making much of the usual videos here lately. Um, it's just not uh, productivity for video season, I guess. Um, but I'm gonna try and maybe make another video later on of another topic. But these videos are at least, you know, simple, uh, pretty much easy to make, and to go over something and to keep in update with, etc. So yeah, we're gonna talk about the current wave spell, which is the blue monkey wave spell. But before we do, I'm gonna go ahead and do a breath real quick. So um, just remember that whenever you're doing the breath, make sure to breathe as deeply as possible, making sure to breathe in as deeply as possible. It's comfortable. Hold it in for as long as comfortable. And when you exhale, try to breathe all the air out. And then whenever you hold it out, make sure to hold it out as comfortably as possible. And the command for this breath will be, and make sure to say this as a standalone statement, or you can think it in your mind, just don't connect it to any other phrase or words. So the command is stabilize and download. Now begin by exhaling the air out of your lungs, out of your mouth. Breathing into your mouth. And breathing out through your mouth. Breathing into your mouth. And breathing out through your nose. Breathing in through your nose. And breathing out through your nose. Breathing in through your nose. And breathing out through your mouth. Breathing into your mouth. And breathing out through your mouth. Breathing into your nose. And breathing out through your mouth. Breathing in through your nose. And breathing out through your nose. Breathing in through your mouth. And breathing out through your nose. Breathing into your mouth. And breathing out through your mouth. Half breath in, mouth. Just give it a moment. By half breath, I mean just a normal, kind of light breath. It's a beautiful day, but it is very hot here in Texas right now. Very beautiful day, though. Okay, so the Blue Monkey Wavespell. I'm going to say some preliminary things before I get into each of the kin. The Blue Monkey Wavespell is Wavespell 11 of 20. As I've mentioned before in the previous Wavespell forecast, since there are 20 Wavespells, that means we have two center digits, or two centagers, and that's Wavespells 10 and 11, and those are the two very central Wavespells. And the thing to note about timing cycles, anywhere when you get to the center of a system, so in this case of 20, 10, and 11 are the two center numbers, it is the transformational point. It is basically when the energy that is established in the beginning takes change, and it transforms and basically converts for the second half of any cycle. In this case, the two central Wavespells are Wavespell 10, which is the White Mirror Wavespell that just ended yesterday, and the 11th, which is the Blue Monkey Wavespell. The thing to note here is that this is what is known as the Court of Magic. What is a court? Well, a court is essentially when the color of the Wavespell matches the color of the castle that it belongs to. So we are in the blue castle, castle number 3 out of 5, and we are in the blue Wavespell of the blue castle. Blue castle is known as the Western Castle of Burning, and this court of the blue castle is called the Court of Magic because it is the power of the blue monkey. So one easy way to remember which Wavespells are the courts. The castles, you have the red castle, the white castle, the blue castle, the yellow castle, and the green castle. The green castle is the entirety of the green castle is its court. So that one's easy to remember. But for the red, white, blue, and yellow, it's easy by remembering the cardinal seal numbers. So the cardinal Earth family are 1, 6, 11, and 16. Basically jump in sets of 5. So 1, you add 5, you get 6, you add 5, you get 11, you add 5, you get 16. They are the cardinals. Cardinal Earth family lead the courts in that sense. For the red castle, the red Wavespell is the red dragon Wavespell, and that is the red cardinal kin. In the white castle, it is the white world bridger. For the blue castle, it is the blue monkey. And for the yellow castle, it is the yellow warrior. I am a yellow warrior, so. The red court is the court of birth. That's the power of the red dragon. The white court is the court of death. That's the power of the white world bridger. The blue court is the court of magic. And the yellow court is the court of intelligence. So today is actually the very first day of the Wavespell, which is Blue Magnetic Monkey, Kin 131. So we actually just entered this Wavespell and this court. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and start talking about each kin. I'll go ahead and erase this here. So the first kin is Kin 131. So, Kin 131. Blue Magnetic Monkey, Tone 1, Seal 11. Basically, as I've mentioned prior, the first day of every 13-day cycle Wavespell gives the magnetic tone gives us the purpose, right? The magnetic is the one because the magnetic field, right, is essentially the body, the metaphysical body of any energy field. So trees have magnetic fields, animals have magnetic fields, crystals have magnetic fields. And by magnetic, I don't necessarily mean like magnetism, like when, like for instance, the magnetic field around um, uh, iron, nickel, and cobalt, which causes them to stick together, but more so just its energy field, right? So, for instance, light has a light and illumination. Light is the dielectric aspect, and the illumination is the magnetic field of that. So, magnetism is not necessarily when two magnetic metals that are magnetized come together. No, magnetism is more so has to do with the life energy, the etheric field around a life form. So the dielectric is the zero, right? It is the plane of inertia, the nothingness from which everything comes from. And the first thing that the dielectric creates when it discharges its energy is the magnetic field. Hence why the magnetic is tone 1, because it is the unified system, it is the unified field, it is the unity, right? So it's like you think of the Trinity, the Holy Trinity, right? You have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. The Father is the dielectric, it is the zero, right? Which is why they say that the Lord God and the Lamb are the temple of it. Whereas the Holy Ghost, aka Magdalene, right, the female aspect, is the magnetic field, hence Magdala, magnetism, right? She is the one, she is the light, she is the field. Everywhere that Mary went, the Lamb was sure to go, because the Lamb and Christ is the combination of the two, which is what electricity is, which is what electrons are, is essentially little fields with little fields of dielectromagnetism. But I don't want to digress. The purpose of this wave spell is essentially, like, this whole 13-day cycle is about playfulness, magic, and illusion, right? So the illusion in this case refers to the dream, right? And we all interpret dreams differently. We all have different dreams. We all have different ideas of reality and this and that. And the purpose of this life, we all try to make sense of this life, and we all have these visions and these ideas of what it means to be here and why we're here, right? And so ultimately it is all an illusion. It is all a dream. It is all, creation is reality dreamt up in the mind of God. And he created all of this for a very specific reason, which I'm not going to get into, but we all try to make sense of it. We all try to project our idea of what reality is for and why we're here. And we all have, to varying degrees, ideas of what that is. It's all about understanding through the power of the understanding of the inner eye. Do we actually figure out the purpose behind this dream, this whole dream spell, right? But the thing about the monkey is that the monkey is a constant reminder of us, because the monkey basically has all the faculties of the human vessel without the higher intellect, which basically can, like, either elevate a human, or it can cause the human to descend into evil, right? So the monkey is a constant reminder of why we have the bodies that we do. Why do we have hands? Why do we have higher faculties of thought, etc.? The monkey is showing us that God gave us these specific types of bodies for various reasons, right? He gave us hands to make art. He gave us minds to think and to read and to learn and to understand, and to play. Like, we are here in this life to enjoy it, right? And we are here to create magic through the vessel that we've been given, right? Because the most fascinating thing about the monkey is its vessel, is its body, right? So that's essentially the purpose of this wave spell, is playing and being playful to understand and create magic in this world, aka learn and create, right? And to understand the purpose of why we're here and the illusion of it all, the dream, right? What is this dream of God? And so then we step into tone 2. Yes, also 131 is a prime number. It is the 32nd prime. So, you can look into that all you want, but 32 is the number of vertebrae that we have in our spine, right? Again, the 33rd being the skull chamber, right? So that 32 and 33, like I've mentioned before with the yellow human and the red Skywalker, is talking about that next step of evolution, that elevation step, which actually brings me to the next point. So, Kin 132, yellow lunar human. The thing about these two first kin here, right? It is the conclusion of its harmonic. Remember, because harmonics are 4-day sequences going from red, white, blue, yellow. And these two are the conclusion of the last two kin that ended the last wave spell. And that makes it harmonic 33. Going back again to the 32 vertebrae and that 33rd skull chamber, right? It's talking about the higher evolutionary state of the harmonics in the Tzolk'in there, 65, making 65's centiger number 33, which stands apart from all the other harmonics. So you have the 65 harmonics with one that stands apart, which is sort of like a null point. It is the dielectric, it is the zero, aka what Jose Arguelles, who is a blue monkey, spectral monkey, kin 11, making his kin code tone 11, seal 11, so 1111. He called it the mystic void, and the 64 and 1, or that 33rd being that one, this is within the Tzolk'in, this harmonic. It connects to many other systems regarding 64. So the number of codons in the DNA, the number of squares on the chessboard, which is all mercurial, relates to the magic square of Mercury, the I Ching hexagrams. All of these things are mercurial changes, adaptation that takes place within our DNA, according to higher mathematical principles and archetypes. So these two kin concludes this sequence. So it is a very important imperative time during the Tzolk'in, because it is the very center, right? It is the very center. It is the hinge upon which the whole thing is moving, right? It's the swivel point. It is the time to reflect deeply upon the nature of the divine, right? So yellow lunar human is showing us the lunar lunar tone, tone 2, which is showing us the challenge and that which strengthens and stabilizes us. And in this case, it is the yellow human, right? It is showing us that yes, we have similar vessels to the monkey, but we are humans, and we have to understand that distinction. What separates us from the monkey in the animal kingdom? We have to admit that regardless of how unconscious we live and how much we don't really question anything beyond our normal lives, that we are created for a divine purpose. We really have to tap into that, because that is the challenge of being a human, is getting in touch with our creator, because we have that capacity. We should, because we're the only ones that can, of the life forms on this earth. We are the only ones that can. So we shouldn't shirk that. We shouldn't shrug to that, or just ignore that, right? Because we are given a gift that no other creature on this earth has. But yeah, that's the conclusion of the 33rd harmonic, and it is the challenge of being a human. It is the challenge of humanity, right? Now, stepping into tone 3 of this Wavespell, which is Red Electric Skywalker. I've talked about this before in the previous Wavespell forecasts. This is what I call the magic stone kin. This is another kin that stands apart. It's interesting how the 33rd harmonic concludes on kin 132, and then the following kin is 133, right after the 33rd harmonic. The Red Electric Skywalker is what I call the magic stone kin. Why? Because if we look at the numbers which make up their tone and their seal, aka the kin code, right, this here, if we put the tone first and then the seal, there are 7 kin whose kin code are encoding their kin number. For instance, kin 210 is White Lunar Dog, that has tone 2, seal 10, 2.10, kin 210. Do you understand? There are 7 when you put the tone first and then the seal. But when you put the seal first and then the tone, there's only 1. And that's the reason why I call it the magic stone kin, is because it had, for 2 reasons. Because it's the seal and then the tone, so S and tone, or S for seal, T for tone, and 1, because there's only 1. Stonekin. It is the magic stonekin. It is seal number 13, tone 3, hence 133. And the thing to note about higher digit numbers, so from 1 to 9, it's pretty easy to understand. Once you get past 9, though, the number that's in the tens place is essentially what it would be in the decimal system. So 10, let's say 11. 11 is 1, 1, right? So when we get up higher than the centesimal system, aka 99, we get to, like, say 133, this 100 and this tens place, this is 13, right? This is 13. It's like saying 13 tens, right? We see it as 100 and then 30 and then 3, but technically this is 13, right? It's like saying, instead of 13 ones, each one of those, of the 13 sets, are little bundles of 10, right? So that's how, that's one interesting thing to note, right? So that's why it's 13, 3, seal and then tone, 13 and 3. I've actually uncovered this kin encoded within the New Testament. It's actually pretty interesting how it does it too. I'll have to look further into that in future videos, but I can't remember what video I had talked about it in. But yeah, it's really interesting how this specific kin, as well as mathematics of the Tzolk'in in general, I believe it was the number 260 that was involved, as well as this number, because this kin is so important. But tone 3, getting back to the Wavespell science, tone 3 is the activation and the service right? It is showing us what we have to perform in this wave spell. What are we supposed to do here in this 13 days? Well, the power of the Skywalker is walking upon the sky, seeing things from high, and understanding patterns and prophecy and time, being able to predict how things are going to play out by being able to see all of it, right? This was known as the mystical seal, because the yellow human just represents the human in its normal human life. But once you take that step from 12 to 13, now it is the elevated human. It's the same distinction from 32 to 33. But, I've already talked about that before. So the purpose of this wave, or not the purpose, the service which we are to perform is the power of the Skywalker, which is spiritual understanding, spiritual teaching. This is why this kin is so highly, or it's highlighted in the Tzolk'in, why it's so important, because it's talking about the prophet. This is the true essence of the prophet, right? I remember Jose Arguelles talking about this kin in further detail in terms of like the various aspects of the ancient Maya, and I can't remember it right now because it's been so long since I've heard it. But this kin is like super important, right? And if you are a spiritual seeker, this day will be very important for your spiritual experience and your understanding and your purpose. It will show you the service of what you are to perform in this life. So now we get to tone 4, which is kin 134, which is the white self-existing wizard. The white self-existing wizard is basically, it's showing us the form in which we are to carry out the service, right? So this shows us the purpose, this shows us the challenge, this shows us the service, and this is showing us how, and the form in which we do it, which, like I've said before, the wizard is the problem solver, right? So being open-minded to other people and helping them out in times of need, whether that's on a grand scale or a small scale, the wizard is the technician. And the wizard helps people and fixes problems, right? So taking care of a lot of things that we probably have been neglecting would probably be key on that kin. But the self-existing wizard is basically showing us the form and the methodology, and that is problem solving and solving things, right? So, and it's also important too because this whole year is coded by 4 moon, so we have a matching tone number. And the interesting thing about the wizard is that the next year will be coded by the wizard 5 wizard, but there's that little correlation there. But that's essentially tone 4. It's just showing us how, the methodology. Going into tone 5 is the blue overtone eagle, right? So one thing I want to point out is these first 5 kin is essentially establishing the energy of the wave spell. This is extending it and basically the process of it. This is the release of it, right? This is basically the passive aspect, and then this is the transporting to the next wave spell. So tone 5 is essentially the deeper meaning and the details, the overtones, right? It's basically whenever sort of detailed information starts coming to us. It helps us to understand. It's like kind of taking a magnifying glass and like looking closer towards the energy of the wave spell. And so in this case, it is the blue eagle, which has the power of vision. And it's not only, dream vision, but external vision from seeing out here in the world, and also closing the eyes and looking with the mind's eye, right? So basically, this we're basically going to see a lot of interesting visions to understand the dream spell, because the thing about the monkey is the one that's in charge of showing us the dream spell. The monkey, in this sense, kind of removes the veil. It removes the curtain, right, and shows us the mystery, right? And the eagle will basically, during this kin 135, it'll show us the deeper mysteries, right? So it'll be very interesting, Ken, to sort of look deeper into our purpose and sort of extract information that'll help us to move on to the next step. And it's actually really key how the energy translates up to Kin 137. So the overtone eagle will help us to understand things a little bit more clearly, right? And sort of become aware of like the details of things. Moving into tone 6, this concludes the active part of the wave spell, the first 6, because then the 7 is in the center, the transformational CPU, as I call it, and then the last 6 are the passive, which is the reaction. So you have creation, the CPU, and then you have reaction, right? Which is the response to what was created here. Tone 6 in this case is the Yellow Warrior, which is the power of intelligence and the power of courage, right? Uncovering the mystery, right? The action of that. Because tone 6 is the balance, right? It is the dance, and that we have to like basically act out, and the things that we have to organize. And in this case, it's intelligence as well as our own inner courage and fearlessness, etc. The interesting thing about this number, though, 136, is that it is the triangulation of 16, which the Yellow Warrior is the 16th seal, right? So if you add every number up from 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10 plus 11 plus 12 plus 13 plus 14 plus 15 plus 16, it sums 136. Now, I'm not sure how many of the 22 triangulated kin actually synchronize up with, for instance, the Yellow Warrior is the 16th seal. 16 triangulated is 136, which is 6 warrior. I don't know how many of them do that, but I mean, it'd be easy to look at because there's only 22 of them. But yeah, so which it is also, because it is the triangulation of 16, it is the total value for the magic square of Jupiter. And Jupiter is very interesting because I haven't researched much about Jupiter, but essentially Jupiter represents higher learning, sort of intelligence, and that's fascinating because the power of the warrior is the intelligence. And if I'm not mistaken, Thor is a representation of Jupiter. So yeah, there's that. It's sort of like, when I think of Jupiter, I think of like the lightning bolt, right? And it's like the flash of insight in this case, right? As well as like the power and the courage of Jupiter, the sort of jovial nature in that sense, right? The hero, the classical hero, right? But yeah, during this tone, we basically just have to organize and balance things and uh, give a quality to various things that might be lacking balance. That's Kin 136. Moving into tone 7, we have red resonant earth, and so this is 7 earth. The interesting thing, sorry, let me talk about the tone, or the kin first. Tone 7, like I've mentioned before, is the very heart of every wave spell. So even though the monkey is the purpose, what is at the very center of the monkey? What is at the very heart? Well, it is the earth, and the heart is the earth, right? The earth is the heart, right? So it's directing our mind out to our external world and showing us that this earth is our heart, right? We should love her and we should venerate her because she is a wonderful magical place. She can be seen as that because that's a part of her. Despite how bad it can get down here, the natural world is beautiful, right? The monkey is nothing without its forest or its jungle to explore in, right? And the power of the red earth is essentially, it is this natural matrix, right? It is this organic field in which we exist and walk around in, at least us earth walking creatures. But it's also the power of navigation, basically, and synchronicity and evolution. It's basically knowing where to go and what to do and how to explore this realm down here, and understanding the heart of her, and understand geomancy, which is, in a sense, understanding how she is communicating to us, right? This number 137 is not only encoding 13-7, which is important because it is the 7th of all 13, but it is also prime number 33. Talking about this whole thing with the 33rd harmonic and everything. I don't want to go too much into this, but the other interesting thing to note is that it is the second and last resonant tone kin in the 7th column. So it is the second and last resonant kin in the resonant column. It shares this relationship with the resonant seed from kin 124, which the seed was the active principle. It was like understanding what words and what energies that we're putting in ourselves, and therefore determining what fruit we're going to, ripen and create, whether if it's good or bad fruit. Well, this is the result. This is basically showing us what we did, what we allowed in, and what is in us. This is the fruit day. It's like basically showing us the response of that. Just like how everything that we do in this world, the earth responds to us. It's showing us how we're treating the earth. But yeah, 33 and 137 is related to phyllotaxis. It relates back to Christ. Many things. This can be a very powerful kin, right? It always is, right? Just because of the power of its number. But yeah, this is basically, when you get to tone 7, all the energy that's established and created in this part, basically, it concludes, and then it switches over, and then starts outputting, right? So this is the input, and that's when we have to decide what to input, or what God decides to download, and then it establishes itself and then changes over, and we see the result and the response of that. So now we go into tone 8, which is the white galactic mirror, kin 138. I said this before, the galactic tone of every wave spell is the seal that was the magnetic for the last one. So because the previous wave spell was the white magnetic mirror wave spell, or the white mirror wave spell, now we are basically understanding the pop quiz. Like, how good did we do during that previous wave spell? What did we do? Like, what is the result and the response? Well, this is the response of that. It's like everything that we went through and that was prepared for us and that we experienced is now being all encapsulated into one day, and that day is for that reason. Tone 8 is galactic. Its mirror is tone 6, so it has that alternating back and forth type of rhythmic energy, but it's more, you don't have to like think about like what actions to take as much as, just sort of, upkeeping with what is, like what has been, what you have established. It's like that balance, right? So sort of showing us the alternating energy of like as a response of what we've done. In this case, it's the white mirror, so it'll be very obvious to us because it'll be showing us reflections, right? It'll be showing us how we're interacting and connecting with the world, and this and that, Tone 9 is the blue storm, just 139, blue solar storm. Tone 9 is basically the time for realizing, understanding what needs to change, right? Because it is showing us the pulsations. It's showing us what we're putting out in the world, and basically what are we, like, what is our intentions, right? And so the blue storm is basically going to catalyze that and show us what sort of character changes that we need to make, or what character traits that we have which no longer serve us, right? It's basically going to be a time to realize the aspects about ourselves that we don't like and that we are going to change, but also at the same time being open to what God is communicating to us through the Tzolk'in energy. So he'll basically show us the character traits that are no longer serving us, and the new traits that will be downloaded and basically catalyzed within us. It'll help to refresh our energy in that sense, and to determine the next stage of our selfhood, right? Our evolution in that sense. So that's a really powerful combination, the solar storm, because of its connection with, it's like saying the strong pulsations of the solar energy, right? Which, going into the next kin, which is Tone 10. Tone 10 is the manifestation of the challenge and the time of action, right? Not so much enforcing our will upon the world, but it's like the challenge comes to us, right? It is the response, right? Because this whole second half is the response. But it's showing us the challenge, the time of testing. Tone 10 is always the time of testing, right? It is time to begin the test in that sense. In this case, it's the yellow sun. Because the yellow sun is all about light. It's all about truth. It's all about enlightenment. It's all about being a teacher of what is good and what is right and what is intelligent, what is truth, and not ignoring falsehood, and not just letting incorrect things to continue in that sense, right? We have to change, and we have to teach others. We have to show others the way. We have to embody the way ourselves. We have to get more in tune with that, right? And that's Kin 140, the yellow planetary sun. The purpose of the sun in relation to the planet and all that exists within this planet is to evolve it. The sun, the light of the sun, is the word of God, and it is pure psionic energy that is radiating from the sun, which is giving birth to all life. It is giving birth to all soul, which that's what the sun is. It is soul. And it's also updating things, right? It gives life to everything. And it's not only of a physical nature, right, to grow the leaves through photosynthesis and give us vitamin D and energy and wake us up and grow crops to give us nourishment and everything. No, it is literal. It is also radiating pure psychic developmental evolutionary energy, which is going straight into us and making us grow. It is making us grow as well as the plants, but in a psychic way. So the best way to absorb the sunlight is through your eyes. It's the most optimal way. But if you've never solar gazed before, I would recommend just starting with the sunrise and sunset. Don't look straight at the sun when it's in the middle of the day, because your eyes may not be ready, and very intense if you do that. Just saying. Sorry, my hair looks kind of weird, but yeah, that's the planetary sun, right? Energy of the sun to further upgrade and give form and life to everything. And we have to understand what is radiating from that sun, because that is the light of Christ, right? In whom are hid all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge, Colossians 2:3. Going on to tone 11, which tone 11, like I've said before, is always antipodal to tone 1. The challenge of the monkey is the dragon, right? There's actually a really cool dichotomy between the monkey and the dragon, especially in the East. But I don't want to get into that because I've not really studied too much of the mythology of this war, this ever-perpetual war between the dragon and the monkey. But it is there, and it is a very ancient concept in mythology. This case, for the spectral tone, we have the red dragon, which is essentially birth, right? It is coming into existence, the unity of everything, right? Dragon represents unity because it is both of the upper worlds and the lower worlds. It has the serpentine, reptilian lizard energy of the earth below, right? It is an earth walker in this sense. It's also a flyer, it's of the heavenly realms because it has wings. It's essentially half bird and half reptile. And the dragon is a mythological representation of those two energies come together. But yet, at the same time, it is just pure selfhood. It is just pure ego. It is just primarily focused with itself, right? That being said, though, it is about being unified within the self, right? You do want to go back to the zero and connect back to God, but within the self alone, you do want to nurture, because that is the action of the red dragon, is to nurture, right? It is to be the great mother. The dragon is the great mother. It is the earth, right? It is basically what sustains and nourishes things, right? Through the absorption of the solar energy, it basically becomes embodied within the red dragon, which is the earth, which gives just all the reds. By the way, all 5 red seals are the earth, by the way. Yes, I know that that's the red earth, but that's a word that we use to describe the field, right? And our understanding of this has been greatly fragmented. So all 5 red seals, for instance, the red dragon, the red serpent, the red moon, the red skywalker, and the red earth, all of those are talking about the same energy field, which is the red. It is the rubedo. It is the earthly energy. And they're all talking about the same thing. Whereas all 5 white seals are talking about the air. All 5 blue seals are talking about the water. And all 5 yellow seals are talking about the fire. Right? There's just 5 different aspects to those great archetypes, the elements in that sense. So basically, the monkey has basically been exploring with its body, being playful, using their hands, messing around with a lot of stuff, getting into things that they probably shouldn't, right? Being a catalyst for creation, right? By that playful nature. And the dragon has basically been woken by the monkey in this sense. So the dragon has been challenged this whole time, right? The red dragon energy is more so just about being comfortable with their home life and being around things that are familiar, whereas the blue monkey wants to explore. So there's all this antipodal energy between the red dragon and the blue monkey, and the tone 11 is always talking about the shedding of all the egoic aspects, which allows the inherent essence of whichever seal it's aligned with to shine forth without any baggage, right? It is the dissolution of all of the fragments of ego. It shows the true archetypal energy of that seal, right? So basically, it'll show us the true essence of what it means to be a dragon, right? Without any sort of negativity associated with that. Which, for all of the different archetypes and symbols, there are good aspects about them and bad aspects about them, right? For instance, there are good and bad aspects of the dragon. There are good and bad aspects of the wind. And by good and bad, I just mean from the human's perspective, because, that's the lens through which, that is the filter through which we experience things, is being a human, by the way. There are good and bad aspects of the knight. There are good and bad aspects of the monkey, good and bad aspects of the human, good and bad of the Skywalker, etc. And the spectral tone is all about dissolving all that bad and being liberated and understanding just the pure soul of that, right? Because it's been challenged up until this point. It's shedding its ego. The red dragon is antipodal to the blue monkey. So if we're going through blue monkey energy, this thing is constantly being put in situations that it's not comfortable, that it's constantly having to be broken down and having all of its resistance taken away to where it surrenders, right? So that'll be interesting for that, because it'll show us the true nature of each and every one of our archetypes. Not our soul, which is Christ, right? That's our consciousness. That is the true essence of who we are, which is universally the same in all people. The red dragon more so is just about our archetypes. So for my case, it's Matthew, right? My character, this sleeve, this body that I exist in, this archetype, this personality. For you, it's yourself, etc. Lowercase s, because the true self is the Son, which is Christ. All right. So moving into tone 12, we have the white crystal wind. The crystal tone is essentially showing the where the whole system, and in this case it's the system of the wind, which is the spirit, which is the breath, that's the Holy Ghost, right? Which is the wind out here is the same, that's the breath that's flowing through our body, and it is giving us life, right? Through the extraction of the solar lunar energy that is embedded within the wind, because it is all the various gases that is in the wind that we are extracting nourishment from, which is the soul energy is more so the actual spark of life. The wind energy is to keep things processing, right? You notice it's like if you have a headache, well, if you go into meditation, it's like, and you meditate for 30, 45 minutes, your headache can be greatly alleviated or possibly even go away completely, because there's stagnant energy in that chakra. And through the process of the breath, It is moving and flowing that stagnant energy, right? The wind is sort of like the lubricant to the machine, which is our body. And this is showing us the cooperative effort of all the wind as a system, all working in unison. So the spirit, and that is our breath, right? Spiritus, spirare. The spirit of me, the spirit of you, the spirit of every human being, including the wind and the Holy Ghost herself, all working as one unified field. That is tone 12. That is the crystal tone. It is cooperation, right? And dedication, because it is universal, right? Universal, right? One. And so it'll be a good day to understand the discrepancies of communication. It'll be a good day to understand the discrepancies of that breath within us, right? I, on this kin before in the past, through meditating on it, I have activated very profound insights, seeing, like when I've tripped acid and mushrooms before, I saw the holographic nature of reality, right? It was like my eyes tapped into the spectrum of light, which we normally don't see. The geometric rainbows and this and that. On that kin one time, actually a couple of times, 2 times in a row, on this kin specifically, because I meditate every day, I was meditating on this kin 2 times in a row. It was like kin 142, and then 260 days later on it again. Through meditation, I saw these geometric patterns. It was like I saw, like, through the veil for a moment, and I saw how all of it's being like this holographic projection being emanated from the mind of God. Like I saw the field, I saw the intricacies of the fabric of the holographic universe. And that's what's so cool about kin 142, right? And it helps to remind us of how small we as humans are in comparison to even just the field, right? Even just the mother. Like we're small, especially to both the mother and the father. Which the mother is the field and the father, or the mother is the hardware, the father is the software, and they are both one, and we are one with them. So just remember that if you feel disconnected, right, for whatever reason. So now we get into tone 13, which is the conclusion, which is not only the conclusion of this wave spell, but is also the conclusion of the central wave spells, right? Which, like I've mentioned before, is highly related and connected to the Tao. I probably should have mentioned this earlier. The Tao energy is more so of it's Eastern, feminine, passive kind of energy. I wouldn't say completely involve yourself with Tao energy, because it is, if you're not balancing that with the Western energy, it won't be in balance, right? There'll be imbalance. But the conclusion of starting on white magnetic mirror 118 all the way to 143 at the conclusion of the blue monkey wave spell is a very key time of the Tao matrices. So this has been a very important time to learn the process of surrender and letting go and letting God, right? Sort of energy, right? But just remember that once it concludes, then we have to return back to more so active willpower of like the Western way, right? This is more so related to the Tao cycles, which is related to 81, which is 9 squared. It's essentially heavenly energy in that sense, right? But just keep that in mind. One of these days I'll probably talk about it, but it's been so long since I've last worked upon those matrices, and I don't even know if I still have them. Since I moved, I probably threw away the notebooks, which had the databases and the matrices in them. But either way, this is Blue Cosmic Night, and it's essentially the cosmic tone is basically wrapping up the wave spell, showing us the conclusion of it, and making way for the following wave spell, right? Um, and in this case, it is the Blue Night, which is dreaming. It's the internal dielectric realm in and of itself, right? Which is not just darkness. I know that we close our eyes and when we go to sleep and enter that field of night, that it's dark, but it's not just darkness because there the light is born, right? We see it's the light and the darkness are unified in that realm. It is the realm of unity. You know, there is no distinction and duality in that realm. Or at least it is closer to unity than this third dimensional realm. But yeah, the Blue Night is essentially a time of intuition, right? Sort of like an inner knowing, and the way and where that inner knowing comes from is understanding that where we've come from and what is deeply ingrained within our souls. Because every one of us, our souls are like antennas that can retrace the origin of the species. We all contain like an antenna or a radio tuner to cosmic memory. And this is sort of like the kin of cosmic memory, right? It's showing us that we have a pathway within ourselves to go back throughout all of time, as well as into the future, right? But that's more so the Red Skywalker energy. But essentially, it's going to be a time of really bizarre dreams, really bizarre intuitive knowing. That's what every Blue Night day is about, is like kind of understanding like how we have this energy within us, and most often we don't think about that. You know, it's like, and we catch glimpses of it every once in a while, most of the time unbidden. It just kind of comes to us, and then we think to ourselves like, where did that come from? It's like when you say something and then you ask yourself like, did I just say that? Like, was that me that said, like, what is that? You know what I mean? It's like because our bodies, our souls, are vessels that have, like, it's like our bodies are subject to everything in this environment. You know, you step in a lake, your body is going to get wet, and the skin's going to start absorbing that water. You go step into a fire, you're going to burn. You step off the top of a cliff, you're going to fall, right? Our bodies are subject to this environment, just like how our souls are subject to the realm of heaven, meaning that at any given point, divine revelation can come. At any given point, you may end up walking into terra incognita and tap into a realm of thought and idea and memory, and spiritual messages can come to you at any point. Flashes of insight can occur at any point, because like how our bodies are subject to this world, our souls are subject to the mind of God. We are swimming within the mind of God. The Blue Night is very interesting how it relates to the Hebrew letter of Mem, right, which is the primordial waters. It is the primordial memory, right, because that's what that realm is, right? And it shares this interesting relationship with Nun, because the Nun is the fish, which is the dielectric, right? That's basically creating like a, what's the word am I looking for? It's like an X-ray. It's like an opposite. What word am I thinking of? It's like a photo negative, right? Because it is nothingness. It like sort of burns in this image within our mind, because the mind itself, when you close your eyes and you see that darkness, that's not nothingness. That is a substance, right? It is a thing. So whenever you create, like when you take away from that, then it burns in that light, and then you can see. It's like when you stare at light, what you're really staring at is the illumination, but when you blink at it and you burn the shape of that light into your mind's eye, you're burning like the dielectric, which is nothing. Which when you close your eyes and you see that shape, the reason why you see it is because it's almost as if it's like cutting it away. But the way that it appears to us is now it looks like there's something burned onto that surface, but really the reason why we see it is because it's like it's taking away the darkness, right? And we see what's underneath the darkness, which is light, right? So that's going to be interesting. This whole Wavespell is about magic, right? So the reason why this is the second central Wavespell, why it's so important, is because it's showing us the miracle that we are, right? The miracle that, that is our bodies and the vessels, and that God has placed us in to exist in this life, right? Be thankful for your body. Be thankful for the world. It is a beautiful place down here in this earthly realm. Yes, it can be bad. Yes, it can be horrible. And I mean that absolutely, how bad it can get. But it is not completely hopeless. And the beautiful thing about the Tzolk'in and the law of time is that he's showing us that the merging of heaven and earth, even though it is always here, throughout all of pretty much most of history, not all of it, but for a long time now, it seems like they're separated. And it's an illusion, right? Because the monkey shows us the dream spell. The monkey shows us the illusion, right? And it also is about projecting illusion, because we project our ideas out into the world. And the best way to create these perspectives is to tap into that which is, going back to the blue overtone eagle, is to tap into God's will, because it is through tapping into God's will, which is his higher systems of order and governance. And if we project that out into the world, then we bring it closer. Then we bring our own selves closer, right? So it's not necessarily that all the prophecies of pretty much every advanced civilization that tapped into astrology and the movements of the stars and this and that, it's not necessarily that heaven and earth are, because all the prophecies were talking about the same point in time, which is whenever basically evil starts to go away. They go back into the void, because cosmic history is this process of, everything being created, and then like you have periods of good and bad, and then ultimately it gets really bad and evil takes control. But then over time, because of the laws of God, evil starts to lose incrementally, right? And I know that sounds horrible, but there are these major cycles in time where the good comes back for a long time, and we basically live in heaven on earth, right? It's heaven on earth at that point. But it's not like heaven was separated or they weren't unified. It wasn't that heaven was separated from earth and that they were separate, they weren't unified. It was because of the illusion. We think that heaven's not here. We think that heaven and earth are not one, right? But they are. And the only difference between the time of prophecy, when basically, the whole 2012 thing, and like basically it's going to be like 1,000 years out, like we're stepping into the golden age, right? We are stepping into the time of miracles and renaissance and love and greatness. It's going to be awesome. It's heaven on earth. That's where we're at within the grand schema of history, cosmic time, the law of time. That's what all the ancients were pointing to. Like all their prophecies were pointing to this time. And I know that may seem not fair, like there's no equality. Well, wait till you get to this yellow rhythmic warrior and you'll understand, right? Because we're reincarnating, right? So all of us have had to endure the bad cycles of time, and all of us get to be rewarded with the good cycles, right? So it is fair. It is equal. We're talking about the laws of God here, and God does not punish us for no reason. Yes, life can be bad, and through the bull crap that we believe, we can fall into those traps of thinking that God is horrible, or that, it's all bad and doom and gloom and this and that, but that's not true. The purpose of the sacred sciences and the sacred mathematics and geometries and understanding those deeper mysteries contained in the Bible is to get closer to God's mind, to get in more alignment with how he makes all these things function and work. And the more you understand God and the more you understand the way he works, the more at peace you'll be, right? The happier you'll be, the luckier you'll get, the more fortune you'll find. And even though we can't prove that, right? The reason why we can't prove that is because most of us don't ever take those steps towards that. We're not willing to go through the bad to get to the good. Most of us don't even know that it's there. It's really weird. But I promise you, wait till you see on this, Ken, or just pay attention to how all these systems function. Because even though the Tzolk'in takes place with one kin every day for 260 days, the essence of the Tzolk'in, all 260 are happening all the time. The Tzolk'in is not just a matrix or a generator for 260-day cycles. It is also a computer chip, right? It is like a CPU for the present moment that's always eternally happening. That's the thing I'm trying to get people to understand about the Tzolk'in, is that the Tzolk'in is a harmonic module because it is the essence of the codes of reality occurring eternally now, right? But it's also from day to day. So understanding that relationship, right? There's many ways that the laws of time do this, right? And the law of time is the fourth dimension, which is the metaphysical. It is that inner realm. Not to say it's the deepest realm, because the dielectric inside that is key, and that's Lord Christ, right? You want to tap into that because he is the pure love and power of the present moment. But beyond that, then it's time, and then beyond that, it's space. So just remember that it goes in that order. First it's Christ, then time, then space. Time is basically the measurement. It is the math, which is the software which gives us form to everything. And then you have the form itself. So Christ is one, right? Christ is the union of heaven and earth. He is the Father and the Holy Ghost combined into one, right? Which Christ's mirror is, Christ has lots of mirrors. Paul mirrors Christ in a lot of ways. St. John the Baptist, Mary Magdalene, Thomas, it's really fascinating how all of this works. And this, just like the zodiacal wheel, with, you have, you have Jesus in the center, and then you have the 12 signs of the zodiac, right? Jesus is that 13 in the center. It's the sun, right? Traversing all 12 signs. That's exactly the same geometry of the Wavespell, because the 7-1 here in the center, that's that center, right? And then you have 6 here and 6 here. That's the 12 disciples, all around the 7th, that's exactly what the Last Supper is. But anyways, I've already gone on long enough. I got a lot of other things I got to do, so I will catch y'all in the next one. Hopefully I've, went over some stuff that I haven't gone over before, but I just try to go off the top of my dome with these Wavespell forecasts. And yeah, I think it's okay. Yeah. Y'all have a good one.